Hello everyone, Hachadino over here, and as always you might already know, but we have a cool spreadsheet where we have all the videos and information that you might need to play Sublety and to follow the guides. For example, this is going to be about Sublety Deathstalker Rogue. Why? Because it got some buffs, heavy buffs, 45% to all of the plague damage talents, and some black powder buffs that were for all of the two specs. It has already changed Trickster a little bit. I did a video about when to use black powder now. You kind of want to have a find weakness for all the things, and for Deathstalker is the same thing. As you might already know, we have different builds. This would be kind of a build that you could play for Mythic Plus, but Deathstalker also can play with Tornado. I'm going to also teach you how to play with Tornado in another video. This one is going to be for single target. Now, for single target, let's say you can get some extra damage by changing these 2 points to these ones. Now, Shadow Focus is like 0.2% or 0.3. It's nothing crazy, but in my case, I prefer the defensive capabilities of execution. For your normal times, nothing changes. Kind of, these are the best. Symbolic Victory is kind of a PvP talent, and here having a longer shout does not matter that much into normal things. Shadewalker, it's kind of useful actually. In some bosses that you might want to have full uptime, you can use Shadow Step a little bit more easily. Now, bait and switch is usually better than Ethereal Cloak, but sometimes you can use Ethereal Cloak to soak two mechanics instead of one in some bosses. I may explain that one day. Now, as for this, I'm going to change to distance because it's the single target things, and I'm going to talk about the general gameplay changes from Trickster to Deathstalker and from Sub in general. Nothing has changed in the department that you do most of your damage in your cooldowns, those being, of course, Flagellation and Shadow Blades. Those last 24 seconds and 16 seconds. So you usually want to have at least two dances going into them. The first dance, if you have that talented, will make your first dance a little bit longer. But in a raid combat, that will only happen one time. In Mythic Plus, you can get a lot of procs. That's why it's so good. And also another little thing is if you can have other trinkets like the Mad Queen Minded or the Contract, kind of fine. For Mythic Plus, you can get the Crystal or Knife. Nothing changes there. Transmitter, it's still the best trinket on use that you can have. That has not changed. And Mandate, a heroic mandate, it's almost the same as a mythic contract because of Lingering Darkness. This one here, making it so it does 30% extra damage because it's a shadow damage trinket. Now, on our opener, on or everything that we do, we're going to be playing with Deathstalker's Mark and Darkest Night. These are the main things that change from Trickster. Trickster, you played, you didn't really play around the Sin Blade procs or things like that. You just used Coop when you got it. But here on Deathstalker, we have two changes from Trickster. One, we have way less cooldown reduction, and two, we have to get our Darkest Night Eviscerate with full combo points as soon as possible when it procs. What does it mean? This means that if you are in dance and you would, let's say, usually use Secret Technique, now you want to use your Eviscerate on Darkest Night. That is also because of a little annoying bug. I already explained it in the other video. I'm not going to explain it again. Basically, when you have Darkest Night up, you can't apply Deathstalker's Mark, making it annoying and also making you lose damage because you don't have hunted them down and other things that make sense. Now the opener has not changed. I'm going to repeat it for everyone. I'm not going to use the trinket because it's a little bit annoying to use in a normal setting, but ideally you use the trinket just as you use Flagellation or just as you do the first Shadow Strike. I usually use it when I use the first Shadow Strike. You can watch some of my videos and see it like that. And the the first thing has not changed anything from Trickster, but you can do a little different thing. And it's actually more damage if there is more than one target. If there is two targets. We have something called Clear the Witnesses. You usually will use this Shuriken Storm to do extra plague damage. It got buffed, so it does a lot of damage now. And you also have Premeditation that mixed when you enter stealth, your net ability will generate full combo points. So usually you would Shadow Strike, Flagellation, Eviscerate, Banish, Shadow Strike, Rupture, and then go into Dance. Now, you can now Banish and Shuriken Storm. It's almost the same damage, like if you see one Shadow Strike. If you get a crit, it's of course a little bit more damage. But if you have a normal Shadow Strike, it's 130, and if you have that Shuriken Storm, it's 170. Of course, if you crit on the Shadow Strike, it's a little bit more damage, but it's nothing crazy. It's almost neutral to do any of those two things. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually Shadow Strike another target, and I'm going to show you the opener. It's nothing crazy. You're going to go into dance, and you're going to go into dance with one mark. That means that after using your secret technique, you are going to be getting that Darkest Night proc. You will have to build full. Thankfully, we have Shadow Blades, and we can build to full there. Of course, remember the first Shadow Strike also has Premeditation, so you want to use Shadow Blades just on the second Shadow Strike. So let's go into it. One thing that also you might want to know is you can use Symbols of Death, pre-pull 20 seconds if you want to get the two rotten thingies going on, or just as you revive or anything, you can get those two Supercharger stacks. They stay with you. More than two do not stay, so there's no reason to try and stack more than two. And then the opener I'm going to do is the one that is the normal, the Strike, Flagellation, Eviscerate, Banish, Shadow Strike, Rupture, and then go into normal cooldowns. You can also see my abilities here, just above my character frame. And let's go. Of course, as you might already know, I'm playing the first dance, so my first dance is going to be a little bit longer than usual, but that does not change much. Now, this is the opener, and you can see sub is not as hard as it is. Now, as for Clear the Witness, you always want to use it when you are outside of Symbols of Death. It will do a little bit more damage as you enter that last period because you have the Lingering Darkness. That is also the place where you want to use your Mad Queen's Mandate.
Select or stand in circle.
I use the other trinket, well, whatever. And I'm also, of course, going to put the trinket with Gaura in the description so you can have that text-to-speech thingy. And now, as you can see, also have my Darkest Night to be ready. Now, for the other cooldown uses and other places in the fight, I'm going to show now this. So most of these things still apply. You will not use Secret Technique if you are 20 seconds away from Flagellation. And there's also one thing that is different with Deathstalker. You can't really use cooldowns here on the 30. You will use it on the 45 to 55 to get the Cold Blood Secret Technique out. And then the next usage will be just as you get Secret Technique back, you will use it with only Symbols of Death, and then you go into cooldowns. And here you will not be able to use the Secret Technique alone either because of cooldown reduction, as I explained before. And now, as these get to the 160, the same thing. This is your Cold Blood after cooldowns. You get it back 45 seconds afterwards, more or less. And then here you have your cooldowns again. This will likely make it so you use your Cold Blood Secret Technique on the second one instead of the first one, but it's okay. Now, you do have to be aware that sometimes, if you don't have a shaman in your raid or in your group or whatever, you may need to actually use flagellation and other things a little bit later. Now, this is some, let's say, guesstimate, but you want to have at least one charge and 40 seconds on your next. So that means 20 seconds left, more or less, when you use all your cooldowns to be super safe and be able to dance twice in a row. There's also a thing that you actually want to get two secret techniques into the treacherous transmitter. I'm going to get a clip and post it after this video. It's nothing crazy, but it's very tight. This is, let's say, a min max that I don't expect everyone to do, but if you do it, you get a little bit extra damage. Secret technique does not hit as hard as Deathstalker, but it's still quite a sizable amount of damage. Now, that is everything that I think you might need to know about Sublety. One thing that is important, of course, is that because you have less cooldown reduction, if you go out of the boss range to do anything or something like that, be very careful about the dances and things like that, because you can run into a problem when using your cooldowns. Likely, you will use only one dance in between cooldown windows, the one that has cold blood, and then you can, likely before or after that, if you have a secret technique ready, you can use symbols along with that. Symbols also has three charges, so you may end up going to want at least two. Remember, into the cooldowns, you want to have one charge and at least 15 seconds on the other one. So you get one and then get almost the second one in there. Safely, of course, you will want one charge and then 10 seconds when you begin cooldowns, but let's say does not change much. So that is everything. One thing that I'm just going to say at the last moment is it is normal that you struggle with energy. It is what it is. So just play. It's going to do quite a bit more damage than Trickster in single target fully. And I'm going to, of course, do the Mythic Plus one and the clip recommendations. So also expect that one to come soon. Now, have a nice day, and I will see you on the next video.